You're sitting at your desk. Just a laptop. A cup of coffee. The hum of a fan somewhere in the room. Outside, it's quiet. Normal. Nobody suspects a thing. Then your phone buzzes. An unknown number. You almost ignore it. You don't. A voice on the other end says something you never expected to hear. You're the most wanted hacker in the United States. That sounds like a movie line, right? Something dramatic, exaggerated, unreal. But the truth is stranger than that. Because this isn't about some Hollywood villain in a hoodie, typing green code in a dark basement. This is about you. Sitting exactly where you are right now. Let's rewind for a second. How does someone even become the most wanted? It's not about being the flashiest. It's not about being the loudest. In fact, it's almost always the opposite. The most wanted hackers in history weren't caught because they made obvious mistakes. They were caught because of one small detail. One tiny inconsistency, buried in thousands of perfect ones. Think about it this way. Imagine you're incredibly careful. You use encrypted messages. You mask your location. You never brag online. But one day, years ago, you signed up for a forum. Just once. With an email address you thought you deleted. That single thread never actually disappears. Cybersecurity investigators don't need everything to be wrong. They just need one thing to connect. Now here's where your story gets more real. The FBI has been quietly building a case. Not because of one big hack. Because of a pattern. A pattern of intrusions into financial systems. Each one small. Each one just impactful enough. Never big enough to seem suspicious on its own. That's the strategy. Fly under the radar. And eventually, you become invisible. Except invisibility online is mostly an illusion. Every action leaves a trace. A login timestamp. A slightly reused password. A server location that matches, just slightly too closely, with another case from 3 years ago. You didn't do anything sloppy. But sloppy isn't actually what catches most people. Patterns catch people. Behavior catches people. Habits, repeated just often enough to become a fingerprint. Right now, agents are pulling together those fingerprints. Piece by piece. Building a profile, not of a name yet, but of a rhythm. A rhythm that happens to match yours exactly. Here's the moment where the story usually goes one of two ways. Path 1. Panic. Delete everything. Change locations immediately. Move too fast, and suddenly, you look exactly like someone with something to hide. Path 2. Stay calm. Think clearly. Recognize that panic itself creates new patterns, and new patterns are exactly what investigators are looking for. There's a real principle here, used constantly in real cybersecurity investigations. Sudden behavioral change, after years of consistency, is one of the biggest red flags there is. If you've been quiet and steady for years, and suddenly go silent overnight, that silence speaks louder than anything you ever typed. So what do you actually do in this exact moment? You sit still. You breathe. You think back through everything, calmly, methodically, not to cover your tracks in a panic, but to understand exactly what's already visible and what isn't. Here's the twist most people don't expect. The most wanted hackers in real history were rarely caught mid-hack. They were caught in ordinary moments. Logging into a personal account on the same device used for something illegal months earlier. A tiny, human mistake. Not a dramatic chase. Just an ordinary Tuesday, where two separate parts of a life accidentally touched each other. That's the real lesson hiding inside this scenario. Because here's the mirror moment. This story was never really about hacking. It's about you, right now, in your actual life. Because every one of us leaves patterns. Behavioral fingerprints, built from small habits, repeated often enough to become predictable. The way you always check your phone at the same time. The way you always respond to stress the exact same way. The way your careful moments and your careless moments quietly overlap, more often than you'd think. Ask yourself, if someone studied your patterns for a year, what would they learn about you? Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because patterns reveal truth, whether we intend them to or not. Back in this scenario, the knock never comes. Not today, because you didn't panic. You didn't create a new pattern that stood out. You simply continued being exactly who you'd always been. And in the end, that's the real twist. The most wanted hacker in the country wasn't caught by a flashy mistake. They were caught, or protected, by the same quiet, consistent pattern they'd built their entire life. So the next time you think no one's watching your habits, remember this. Patterns always speak. The only question is whether you're listening to your own.